The Diary of a Harlequin is proudly brought to you by Charles Stanley Wealth Managers, official player welfare partner of Harlequins. If you're looking to start your investment journey, then Charles Stanley has lots of tips and ideas on how to secure your financial future. Welcome to the Diary of a Harlequin. I'm your host, Joe Yates-Round, and today we're speaking to Harlequins number 9, Lucy Packer. Lucy is a current Red Rose, having played for England since 2019, but before that cut her teeth on the Sevens circuit representing Wales. Currently studying biochemistry alongside her rugby, Lucy is a Premier 15s winner with Harlequins in 2021. Already a leader in the squad, aged just 23, and with 15 England caps to her name, including a World Cup final, she is someone we'll be hearing a lot about for years to come. Welcome to the Diary of a Harlequin, Lucy.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the start of your, maybe even before the start of your rugby career. Was rugby always kind of what you loved as a girl kind of growing up, or did it come later? Like, how did that kind of come into your life?
Yeah, definitely. I started playing when I was around 6. My dad played, the rugby pitch was literally at the bottom of my house, so it was kind of like I was always going to play rugby. I played a lot of other sports.
Yeah.
I was quite a big fan of football as well.
Oh, yeah. Do you follow any teams?
Arsenal.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Lovely.
that's surprising. I usually get a lot of hate for that. But
well, not on this. This is a safe space
good.
for Arsenal fans. What a time to be an Arsenal fan. Anyway, actually, this is going out at some point in 2024, so hopefully it's still a good time to be an Arsenal fan.
Yeah. It has been a bit rough, but yeah.
So you were a football fan, played football as well? Yeah,
I played football and rugby. Those are sort of my two main sports of growing up. I pretty much I've got an older brother, so whenever he'd start a sport, I'd then start.
Right, okay.
Probably be better than him, and then he'd quit. That's pretty much how our relationship went.
And he's fine with that? Definitely.
Yeah, he's fine. He's kind of used to it now.
Yeah.
So he doesn't play any more sport, I think. Yeah, he's probably had enough of it, but yeah.
And was your parents, were they into you say your dad played rugby as well? Was he kind of happy for you to follow football? It was like, come on, rugby's really where it's at.
He didn't sort of like put too much pressure on me. I think he sort of coached me in rugby, so I was always sort of kind of leaning a little bit more towards rugby. But at the time, I played football and rugby till I was about 16.
Oh, okay.
Started going a little bit further in rugby, and then I moved up to Harlequins, and then
here we are.
Never played football again.
Yeah. And do you think playing football and rugby has helped you as a rugby player, particularly as a number 9, having had that kind of that dual sport almost?
Yeah, definitely. I always say sort of to whenever I sort of speak to like some like fans at the games and stuff, I always say like play as many sports as you can, because I think it really helped me sort of, even like obviously with a 9-year-old, like kicking is a big thing. And just more like fitness, speed, all things like that. I got a lot of that from football, I'd say, as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember we had Ellie Kildan on the last series of this, and she said you can tell the girls that have played football when they're on their pitch. Can you spot them? I think so, yeah. I think sometimes you can look at a person and think, they played football. Really? Like we're trying to have a Play v staff football match soon, so it's going to be interesting. That'll be. Are you backing the playing group?
100%, yeah. 100%.
There was no flinch there as well. You were like, no, we're
going to win.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll come on to maybe why that's got so personal later. And so you're playing kind of rugby and football, and then you say you start kind of going a bit further in rugby. Like, what does that educate us and the listeners? Like, what does that look like, kind of in Wales, the area that you're playing rugby in? Like, is that 15s? Is it 7s? Like, how does that start to take hold? Yeah, so sort of age grade stuff, I played 15s. I think there was, when I was 12 or 13, I did stop playing rugby for a few years because there wasn't a girls' team. Okay. So sort of was probably just playing football or whatever I was doing at that time. And then I think I started at Ospreys under 16s. Yeah. Sort of just was playing with them, and then moved to Scarlets under 18s. And then that's where I sort of got picked up by the Welsh Sevens. Yeah. And then sort of stopped playing 15s, hadn't sort of played 15s senior until coming to Quins. So. Oh, really? Yeah, I literally just played 7s. 7s with Wales, which was, really cool. Yeah, what was that experience like? You speak to some of the other girls that have been on the 7 circuit, like it's kind of an experience all of its own, right? Yeah, definitely. I think I was quite young as well. So when I got brought up into it, I was sort of 17, 18, completely different person to who I am now. Like I was
I still am quite shy and sort of quite quiet, but I was really shy, really quiet. Sort of I wouldn't ever be able to do this, have this conversation now. I was really shy. So I think I found it quite hard. I put a lot of pressure on myself, I think, to sort of perform in sevens, because it's, it's like savage. If you miss one tackle, they're scoring, or it's like a really so much pressure. So I did enjoy it. I loved all the countries I went to. It was amazing. I loved being on the group, but I think the pressure side of it when I was at that age was just like a bit too much. It was a lot.
Yeah, that's quite intense to be kind of 17, 18 and suddenly you're thrown into that.
Yeah.
It's the top level, right? You're not kind of working your way up through the age groups. You are at the pinnacle of the international sevens game. Was there a crop of you that were similar age, or were you kind of the youngest in that group? Yeah,
there was two of us. I think a couple of the girls play for Wales now. So yeah, we had sort of there was three of us. So it was quite nice to sort of go through under 18s to the seniors together, which was really good.
And then how does Harlequins kind of come into the picture there? If you're playing sevens, were you looking to kind of go, okay, I'm loving it and I've loved it, but I'm looking for something a bit more fixed? Yeah. What appealed about coming to Quins rather than, I don't know, playing domestic rugby back in Wales?
Yeah, so I think the main sort of driver was obviously I was looking for a degree. So I just finished school, looking to go to university. I'd done sort of biology, maths, PE at A level, and I was sort of wanting to look into doing something biology sort of based. And I think at the time I was wanting to, obviously I'd heard about the Premiership and obviously watched some of the games and wanted to sort of be a part of that as well. But I think probably the main driving thing was my degree. So I wanted to do biochemistry, I decided, and there wasn't many universities sort of offering that course. And then sort of had a look, and London sort of based was where I wanted to be, and then came up to an open trial, and then started playing for Quins.
Wow. So biochemistry, what kind of appealed about that course, that area of study?
I think it's just completely different to sport, which I quite like having a switch off from it. So I think even at that age, sort of 18, I was, rugby was sort of everything. Yeah. And then I sort of wanted to have something to back that up. And I've always sort of been really big on that if I was to finish rugby, I want to have, something that's going to carry me through for the rest of my life. And I really enjoy biology, chemistry. So hopefully when I finally finish my degree, I can go into something like that.
Amazing. And you said there, you strike me as someone then from what you've just said is that you like to have that separation from your life outside of rugby. You love rugby, you're passionate about it, but ultimately that is this part of you, and actually having something that's, I don't know, you're not doing sports science at uni, you want something that is completely separate. Does that help you kind of be a better rugby player and be a better biochemist, having those two different sides?
I think so, yeah. It is quite a lot sort of doing the degree alongside sport, but I think it is quite nice sometimes, especially sort of when we're in training camps, when I have a couple of hours off from rugby, it sort of helps me focus a lot harder on my uni work. It's quite strange, but we only have, especially in England camps, we don't get much time off. So when I have that time off, I switch off completely from rugby and then focusing on my uni work, which I then feel better for. So then I go into training sort of knowing I've got work done. And
rather than, I don't know, in those gaps between training, poring over match footage, training footage, and just getting yourself further in that black hole, both of them give an escape to the other. And did you have an idea on what a potential career outside of rugby would be with the biochemistry?
So I've had quite a think about it. I do change my mind quite a lot. But,
today then, at time of recording, we're not going to hold you to this.
Yeah, so recently I've sort of become really interested in genetics, so sort of research into genetic disease. Wow. But I've also just started looking into research into concussion. So hoping to sort of get some experience after I finish in sort of some labs looking at the recent concussion data. So,
wow, fascinating. I mean, that's biochemistry is such a huge field. You say you go from kind of genetics to concussion. I can see why you're kind of it's easy to kind of go, maybe next week I want something else. Is that also what appeals to you about it? It's not super narrow, there's that breadth.
Yeah, definitely. And I've always tried, I've always said that I wanted it completely separate to sport, but now I'm sort of so involved obviously in sport and now looking for ways to relate biochemistry to sport. I never thought I'd get to that point. So I've sort of tried to find links, and concussion is the sort of main one, which really interests me. So,
and do you think that comes from being, I don't know, every year you're playing, studying, as you said, you're a different person now than you were to that young girl that was going on the Wales kind of sevens tour, that actually at that point in your life, the separation was really important. And then as you're getting older, actually it's all, okay, what am I learning from both that can kind of come together again? Is that a fair?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And then with your rugby suit, obviously Wales, kind of uni was the driver to get to Quins. As someone who spent their whole life growing up in Wales, represented Wales, how does England fit into this? I know I asked a flippant question at the start, which after saying we won't do hard questions, I hit you straight with a really difficult one of how you self-identify nationally, which is probably unfair. But how does England rugby come into the picture? Was it through contacts made here at Quins, or was there always kind of conversations bubbling?
Yeah, definitely through Quins. I think as soon as when I moved, Gary Street was my coach at the time, so I did a lot of work with him. He sort of taught me a lot because, like I said, I was sort of 18, moved away from home.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to admit it, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't cook. I didn't know anything, and he sort of taught me everything. Like, bless him, like would come over the house and teach me how to cook and things. Yeah, he was really, really good to me. So he sort of started talking to me about playing for England, and I remember some of the coaches coming down, watching training, and like having chats to me after. So definitely through Quins was how I sort of got pulled up into the England setup. And
was there ever any contact from the Wales setup to try to get you to play international rugby there?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Not sort of too much. But obviously I was involved in the Sevens programme, so those links were sort of still there. But yeah, I think ultimately, like, I made the decision that I enjoyed my life at Harlequins. I was living where I was. My grandparents are massive supporters of England, and sort of they're the driving force for me to play rugby too. So I think, the decision...
There's that family pull as well.
Yeah, there. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. How amazing that Gary Street was teaching you how to cook as well as coaching you rugby-wise. What an incredible person.
Yeah, he's amazing,
Is that someone... Sounds like he was really instrumental in kind of making you settle and feel at home here at Quins. Do you think it could have all turned out very differently with a different coach maybe at that time for you?
Yeah, it's quite a hard question. I think he's definitely been a massive part of my sort of rugby career. I think sort of from like growing up to sort of where I am now, he's definitely, a massive part of my journey. And I think he put my parents at ease a lot, because my parents are massive worriers. So knowing I'd sort of, well, they always say it, they just sort of dropped me off and left me. That's how it felt. I did go home every weekend, but that was fine. He was sort of, I know they're in contact quite a lot, and he really like made them sort of reassured that I was okay. And
which I imagine probably helped you, because there's nothing worse than when you're, 18 years old and your parents are worried, your parents are worried, and then you start getting worried about that. To have that sort of being taken care of must have been a comfort.
Yeah.
And what I really want to know is, what did he teach you to cook?
Actually, bless him, he bought me a slow cooker.
Great investment.
Taught me how to like chop vegetables. Like I remember being in the Cube, the Quins building, and him teaching me how to chop properly.
Amazing.
I can't remember. I think he made me dinner that evening, but bless him. Yeah, he was really, really amazing to me.
And do you like your cooking now? Are you...
I go through phases.
Fine.
Sometimes it depends what my training week's like. Sometimes I just get too tired. I'll always sort of cook, but the amount of effort I put in sort of changes.
Depends on the training week.
Yeah, definitely.
So then, kind of, there's the opportunity to play for England. Then it's one thing saying that's what you want to do, and another getting picked into squad and then getting routinely picked. That must have been an immense source of pride when, I know, that opportunity then kind of does reveal itself fully. What was that process like? Obviously, you had those conversations with the coaches, but then to get that call to say, we want you in camp and you're going to play for England. What was that whole kind of journey like for you?
It was a lot. I feel like, my first sort of call up was, I think, 2019. I was in Sweden coaching. I just had gone over, did a bit of travelling, coached an under-18s rugby team, and I had a call off Scott Beeman whilst I was out there saying that I think there'd been an injury and that they were going to fly me out to San Diego. So I was sort of, I think I was like 19, going on my first flight on my own.
Wow.
And it was, I didn't sort of get my first cap out there, but even just being around the team was...
And did you go straight from Sweden out?
No, so I flew home, and then the next day got on a flight to...
Wow.
And I think I didn't have my passport, so my parents had to drive up my passport. I don't even know what... It was...
That's a lot.
It was a lot. And then, I got my first cap in the autumns 2021. against USA, which looking back is just, I think I'm on sort of like 15 caps now, and I can't believe it.
Really?
Yeah, we get shirt presentations before the game, and they always call out the cap number, and when they say it's just gone so quickly, I can't believe it.
That's amazing. As you say, you kind of you hear that, I don't know, first cap, and then suddenly you're 15 and you're looking around the squad and there's other girls getting their first cap, and you're like, oh, I'm not the new player anymore. Like,
still feels it, but yeah.
And what was that moment like then getting, so you've obviously been flown out to San Diego, a huge kind of rush, and then did you know you weren't going to be playing, or were you thinking, well, that might be where I'm making my debut? Is there a bit of excitement and then reality, and then you kind of have those peaks and troughs? Like, what was that?
No, I think I always knew it was sort of more of an experience to be around the team. Like, I remember getting the call and that was sort of explained to me, which, to be honest, I was sort of relieved and glad about. I think I'd only been in one training camp before, so I was just really fresh and new to the whole experience. But yeah, I was just really grateful to be out there with the girls. And I remember I really enjoyed it, but at the same time, I was obviously quite young, really nervous, just similar to what I was like in the Sevens. So yeah, sort of hadn't had much sort of life experience yet, so I was very shy, very quiet. So I don't think I probably spoke too much out there.
And then you kind of, you've explained a few times like how, shy is maybe the wrong word, but like introverted, you kind of find yourself in those kind of new experiences when you're thrown into it. And yet here you are with 15 England caps, you've played on the Sevens tour for Wales, you're an integral member of the Quins squad. Are you someone who loves getting over the white line onto the rugby pitch? Do you feel, not liberated, but do you feel different when you're out there on the pitch at 9, kind of running around and getting in amongst the action?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. I feel like a lot of people have that switch when they go over the line, especially scrum-halves. I feel like scrum-halves have, everyone thinks they're sort of quite like ratty and very annoying, which I hope I don't fit in that sort of criteria. I feel like I'm still quite reserved. I feel like I've definitely grown a lot in sort of on the pitch. A big work on for me used to be sort of like comms and sort of like the volume of my comms, and I feel like that's sort of grown a lot with time as well. So sort of being quite young, I wasn't sort of very good at that, but now I feel like I'm very confident in sort of things like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's too much sort of change for me sort of off pitch to on pitch. I'm still quite similar.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Like, we sort of expect of our sportsmen and women that they put on the shirt and they do become this completely different person, and it's like, well, as you say, why would that be the case? Like, I'm me off the pitch, me on the pitch, and actually I want to try and carry that through. Have you come up against that in the past where people have said you need to be a different person on the pitch, like, and you go, I'm not going to be at my best if I'm worrying about who I'm supposed to be pretending to be out there? Yeah,
definitely. I think it helps a lot of people. I think some people like to have that switch, that they are a different person on the pitch. For me, I don't think I could be a different person. I like to sort of be quite calm and sort of collected on the pitch, and that's how sort of I function at my best. If I was a different person, I wouldn't sort of play as well. So I think being out of character, if I was overly aggressive or anything, it just wouldn't be me, and I don't think I'd perform.
And how much of that, like, performance of you being comfortable in who you are, do you think you relish about playing at Quins? I mean, like, is this an environment that you can feel fully yourself in, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy being at Quins. I think, some of my best friends are here, and it shows when I'm on the pitch. I'm really comfortable. We have open, honest conversations around training, and I think that's, it really allows me to sort of be myself on the pitch and be confident in my ability as well.
Yeah. And how are you finding it at Quins at the moment? Obviously, you talk back to Gary Street when you first joined, and being that sort of 18 years old, like you say, not quite this dramatic, but your parents dropping you off and driving away, and suddenly here you are. Yeah. So now, a few years have gone by. There's been an evolution in terms of the playing squad. It's a much more international squad now, different coaches, different experiences. How are you finding it? Are you enjoying it, loving it still?
Yeah, still really enjoying it. Obviously, it's been a massive change, I think. So we have a lot of conversations around. We have quite a young squad, so sort of, there's a few of us sort of around, 22, 23 that are sort of like the seniors in the squad, which is obviously, quite crazy. And to think that, I think this is my 6th season at Harlequins. So I've started at 18, 19 to be sort of now like a leader, senior player in the squad is, it's crazy to think of, but I'm still loving it and really enjoying it.
And do you feel different? You've already said, that when you were 17, 18, you wouldn't have been able to even have this sort of conversation. Like now that you are, I mean, still very young in terms of the grand scheme of things, right? Still in your kind of early mid-20s, but you are that leader, or you are one of the leaders in the group. Do you find that you're enjoying that responsibility that comes with it, and also showing there's different sorts of leaders? Like, as you said, you don't need to be, banging doors and shouting and screaming. Like, there's a different way, or there are different characters that respond to that. Are there younger girls coming through now that you're like, I know exactly what you're going through, and actually I can help you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, some of the younger girls coming through, I sort of see sort of myself in them a little bit, where they're sort of quite shy, and sort of knowing that I went through that and not really sure sort of how, but I think just being exposed to like team environments was sort of massive for me, and will be massive for them as well.
Yeah, for sure. And look, we can't talk about your time at Quins without talking about kind of winning the Prem back in 2021, like being a part of that group. A few years ago, you were still kind of one of the younger members of the squad then, but we'd had such a long running battle with Sarries in the previous couple of finals. What was that, I guess, the finale to that year, and ultimately that lifting the trophy? Talk us through that run of games, that experience of being with the girls and with the group.
Yeah, I think, like I said, the group was sort of a bit different back then, but yeah, sort of same thing. I was probably just still in that sort of phase where I was sort of still a bit shy, sort of coming out of my shell a little bit. I had, worked with Leanne a lot at 9, which, I really enjoyed, really sort of grew from learning from her. Don't remember sort of too much about the games. I tend to sort of, when I was like quite shy and quiet, I sort of like blank things from my mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I get quite stressed, so I just sort of don't really remember it, which happens quite a lot. But yeah, I remember sort of the final, and like everyone in the change rooms after. It was amazing. But yeah.
Is that something that you've had your whole career, that actually the games, when you're in it, you're hyper focused on it and on being successful, but actually you don't retain that? You've kind of always been able to go, well, that's happened, I can't go back and re-affect it. So actually, rather than obsess over it and over it and over it, I kind of blank it out and put it in a box somewhere.
It's a hard one. I think it's more sort of like the build up to things. So if I'm quite stressed about something, I'll sort of after it sort of kind of forget about the whole experience until sort of up until the moment. So sort of some games, so like for example the World Cup final, I was so stressed sort of in the build up to it. I can't remember anything before the game kicking off, and then I remember the game, but not anything sort of before it.
Wow. And do you think that's helped you? Or is that do you think that's a coping mechanism, or do you think that's something that you're like, do you ever look back and go, I wish I remembered a bit more of that? Or actually you were probably too busy with biochemistry to worry too much about
I'm not too bothered, to be honest. It's probably a coping mechanism, but I feel like as long as if that's what I do to sort of deal and hopefully can perform, then that's fine.
Well, I mean, it seems to be working, so I'm not going to advise ripping it up and changing it.
Hopefully.
And that World Cup experience, so you talked about the World Cup final, like, I can't even begin to imagine the stress, the pressure, external, internal, that comes on you from those sorts of situations. Was taking that final and that stress aside, was the World Cup a overall enjoyable experience with that group of girls?
I think, coming straight out of it, I was a bit didn't sort of understand. It was obviously a really long tournament, so much had happened. I sort of couldn't process it sort of right away, but definitely now looking back, it was an amazing tournament. I'm sort of really proud from sort of what I achieved from it. Like I sort of tore a couple of ligaments in my ankle a week before the semi-final, then couldn't play. And then, the morning of the World Cup final, found out I was starting. So it was a huge roller coaster of a tournament. And it also... Well,
no wonder there was additional stress. You torn some ligaments in your ankle, and then you're suddenly playing a World Cup final.
I also had put my passport in the wash the first day I arrived, lost my phone in the sea 2 weeks later, then shrunk my gum shield in the wash.
It was a stressful time. Losing passports, or washing passports, that feels like a theme. That's hopefully you've got people to take care of that now.
Yeah, I did have to get like an emergency one journey passport. It was it was a very stressful time. But definitely looking back on it, after coming out, I was very stressed and was like, what was going on? But now looking back, it was an amazing, to be in New Zealand for 8 weeks with, some of my best friends. It was, amazing.
And do you look at that, and it's easy maybe to say this as a supporter and a fan, someone that watched it. Were you aware of the impact you were having on the country for, not just young girls watching, but young boys, grown men, grown women watching and supporting England in a World Cup final and kind of what that could mean for the next generation. Is that something that's ever really sort of entered into your thinking, or are you more focused on, I don't know, the actual act of playing rugby rather than leaving a legacy?
Yeah, I'm very focused on sort of playing, I think, because I get quite stressed. I sort of tend to focus on my own performance a lot. But I think after the games, the reaction we had from the fans in New Zealand, you know, it's hard to sort of ignore the impact that we are having.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing, especially after the World Cup final with sort of 40,000 people in Eden Park. It was, you know, amazing, and all, you know, younger fans. Like, I remember a lot of like the young girls like crying, and it sort of does like really open your eyes to, like sort of we are hopefully sort of changing the women's game for the better as well.
And just under the profile and scale of it, and I wonder for you, even growing up in Wales as a younger, there wasn't really that same level of focus or kind of awareness of that as being a possible career route, right? Yeah. Like, and I guess for girls watching you play there now, I've got a daughter myself who will be looking up to people like you and going, well, I might want to do that. And suddenly you're there as role models. And not to put pressure on it, but is that exciting that you can kind of be visibly there for the next generation? Yeah,
it's definitely quite a strange feeling. I think obviously when I grew up, you know, like I said, I had a gap from playing for a couple of years because there was no girls team, and now you know, I'm sort of coaching teams that have, you know, under 10s, 12s, 14s all the way up, and it's amazing to see the growth. And I do find it quite strange sometimes thinking I am a role model, but I guess we kind of all are, which is very weird.
Very weird, but there's plenty of rugby still to play first before you have to focus too much on that. And you mentioned coaching in Sweden for a bit, taking yourself out there and coaching teams now. Is that something that you have a real passion for too?
I used to think I did. So I don't know if I should say this. I did enjoy it. I sort of coached like younger kids. I've always sort of like been quite good with like younger kids. I had my younger brother and sister sort of growing up was always sort of would tend to like want to look after them and things. So coaching sort of kids I sort of quite enjoyed. And now I think as I coach and the children are sort of older or like approaching my age, I sort of struggle with it a little bit more.
Right. Okay.
But I quite like small group coaching. I'll carry on doing that, but definitely not team coaching. I'll probably avoid.
Fine. So head coach Lucy Packer not in the future.
Not going to happen.
Look, we've talked a lot about rugby in your kind of journey and career, which is fascinating. Thank you for sharing about it. I guess I'm quite interested to know a bit more about, or pick under a bit more about you. You talk about the biochemistry and having that focus away from rugby, but I'm guessing it won't be cooking utensils and and recipe books. But what are your extravagances? What are the things that you love outside of rugby, whether it's travel, food, drink, whatever it is?
Gosh, the only thing I can really think of is golf, unfortunately.
Okay. Unfortunately.
I've just got into golf, so I'm quite obsessed at the minute. So I'm always sort of at the range or buying golf clubs or buying golf outfits. That's actually, that's what I spend most of my money on is golf outfits recently.
I think there's plenty of people listening to this that will either themselves or have a partner who spends all of their money on golf stuff. So, but what do you love about golf? Is it just that it's you and the course, or you and the driving range? You can just kind of really focus in on that.
Oh yeah, I think it's a similar sort of switch off thing. It's completely different to rugby. It's on my own. I quite like it. I'm not really a big fan of golf in the winter, I've realised. But in the summer, just, it's like a walk, but there's an actual point because I get quite bored of walking. So it's just like a nice summer evening walk and get to play golf. Yeah.
That sounds ideal.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Walking with a point. That's, I don't know who's doing the marketing for golf, but jot that down. And then I guess as we look to, almost sort of wrap this podcast, I hope people have got a bit of an understanding more about you as the person as well as you as the rugby player. When that time comes for you to hang up your boots, which I hope is many, many years in the future, after Quins have won multiple titles, England won multiple World Cups, and Arsenal have won multiple Champions Leagues, men's and women's. What do you want to look back on your career as like your proudest moment, achievement, or just kind of what do you want to be proud of when you look back over your career?
I think definitely sort of like growth as a person. Like I've already said, from where I am now to where I was sort of 5 years ago, I'm already a completely different person. Yeah. So I think sort of at the end of my career, I'd want to look back and sort of see the growth and sort of want to be known as sort of someone, that was really like caring and kind, and really helped sort of like younger players coming through, or just was sort of just a good sort of like teammate to have. I think that's what I'd like to see.
I think that's a perfectly noble thing to hope for, and it sounds like you're very much well on the way to doing that. Lucy, thank you very much for coming and speaking to us. It's been a pleasure to have you on the Diary of a Harlequin.
Thank you.